lesson, we'll be writing equations in standard form. At the end of the lesson, you'll be able to write an equation giving the x and y intercepts, and then change an equation from standard to slope-intercept and back. So in standard form, it's ax plus by equals c. So we can't have an xy or an x squared. Those would not be standard form of linear. A can be 0 or b can be 0, but they both can't be 0. The coefficients must be integers, and the coefficient of a must be positive. So to make them integers, if a is less than 0, so it's a negative, multiply everything by -1. If you have a fraction, multiply everything by the least common denominator so that you can eliminate fractions. And make sure that your GCF is 1. So if you need to divide everything by the greatest common factor. So to write it from x and y-intercepts, we identify our points, our x-intercept and our y-intercept. Then we use those to find the slope. We write it in slope-intercept form and then change it to standard form. So some examples, find the x and y-intercepts and the slope. So the x and y-intercepts, remember this is where we put in 0 for x, so 3 times 0, -3 times 0, plus 5y equals 15, so that's 0, so I get 5y equals 15. I divide both sides by 5, and I get y is equal to 3. Now let's do the same thing and plug in 0 for y equals 15. So that's 0, so -3x equals 15. Divide both sides by -3, and we get x equals -5. So my intercepts are 0, 3, and -5, 0. Then it says and the slope. Oh, it asked me for the slope. Oh, I'm going to have to put it in slope-intercept form in order to find the slope. So I start with my equation, -3x plus 5y equals 15. I'm going to add 3x to both sides. And I get 5y equals 3x plus 15. I divide everything by 5. And my equation is y equals 3/5 x plus 3. So then my slope is 3/5. All right, write an equation for the graph in standard form. So what is my slope? I see here that this is a straight line, so that means my slope is 0. What is my y-intercept? That's right here. So that is 0, -1. So if I write my equation, I would say y equals, here's my slope, 0x, here's my y-intercept, -1. So we would never see it with that 0x in there, so it would just be y equals -1. Write the slope-intercept equation in standard form using integers. So remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c. So that means I need to get the x over on the left-hand side, so I'll subtract 1/2 x from both sides. That gets me -1/2 x plus y equals 4. Then remember, I can't have fractions, so I'm going to multiply everything by my common denominator, so that would be everything times 2, and that would get me -x plus 2y equals 8. But remember, I cannot have a negative number for my a, so I'm going to have to multiply that by -1. X minus 2y equals -8, and that's standard form. All right, write the point-slope equation in standard form using integers. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute, and I get y minus 1 equals 6x plus 18. Now I know for standard form, I need to get this number over here. So y equals 6x plus 19. Well, there's our slope-intercept form. standard form, I'm going to have to subtract 6x from both sides. So I get negative 6x plus y equals 19. But again, I cannot have negative number for my a, so I'm going to have to multiply everything by negative 1, and that gets me 6x minus 1 equals negative 19. So I have my standard form. Write an equation in slope-intercept given the graph, change it to standard, and then identify. Okay, so my slope-intercept from the graph, the first thing I'm going to need to know is my slope. So if I start here, and I go here, this is going to be down 1, right 2. So my slope is negative 1/2. So if I write it in slope-intercept form, I say y equals negative 1/2 x, and then here's my intercept of plus 1. So now I need to get it in standard form, so I'm going to add 1/2 x to both sides. And that gets me 1/2 x plus y equals 1. Then I have to, this cannot be a fraction, so I multiply everything by 2, and that gets me x plus 2y equals 2. So that is standard form. Let's see, the question said change to standard form, identify the slope and x and y intercepts. So here's my slope, and my x-intercept is, if I put in 0 for x, that gets me 2y equals 2, so y equals 1. So that's my y-intercept, sorry, 0, 1. And my x-intercept, I do the same thing, but I put in 0 for for y. So x plus 2 times 0 equals 2, so x is equal to 2. So my x-intercept is 2, 0. All right, write an equation given the 2 points in all 3 forms. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is find our slope. So our m, remember y minus y over x minus x, so negative 4 minus 2 over negative 2 minus 4, and that gets us 6 over 6, which equals to 1. So our m is 1. So I'm going to start with point slope form. Y, I'm going to choose this point because it's positive. Y minus 2 equals 1 times x minus 4. That's done. Now it's in point slope. Now to get it to slope-intercept form, y minus 2 equals x minus 4, and I add 2 to both sides. So y is equal to x minus 2. That is slope-intercept form. Now to change it to standard form, I'm going to subtract x from both sides, and I get negative x plus y is equal to negative 2. And remember, I could not have a negative x, or negative the a, which is in front of the x, so I multiply everything by negative 1, and I get x minus y equals 2. A quick matchup here. To change it from slope-intercept to standard. So 2x minus 3y equals 6. To change that to slope-intercept form would be 2/3 x minus 2. The next one, x plus 2y equals 6. In slope-intercept form, it would be y equals negative 1/2 minus 3. 4x plus y equals 4x minus y equals 0. That would be y equals 4x. And then our last one, 5x minus 2y equals 12, would be y equals 5/2 x minus 6. So the y-intercept, the x-intercept is 4. What is the ordered pair? That's going to be 4, 0. If the y-intercept is 2, what is the ordered pair? 0, 2.